Change! You got change! Oh, come on, help a guy out, will ya? Come on, change!
Tim.
Dude, I'm busy!
I'm an airbender now.
What?
Yeah, I can airbend and shit. I just did it earlier.
Like wind?
Yeah! Like Avatar.
Like Nickelodeon?
Yes! Yes! Are you almost finished?
No, I barely started.
Well, hurry. Okay, I'm just gonna show you, okay?
Get out of my room!
No, I'm not. No, you gotta let me show you. Okay, ready?
Still think it's funny! Still think it's funny!
The Legend of Kunt Book 3 is actually pretty good. Like, damn, boy! It's honestly baffling how good this season is compared to everything else the show offers. The first season was mediocre and boring, and even though it had some decent world building and good villains, it was ultimately let down by awful main characters, bad plot twists, and a painful love triangle. The first half of season 2 is some of the worst media I've ever consumed, and the second half, while not very good, is a very fun and schlocky guilty pleasure. However, season 3 changes all of that, and shockingly delivers a package that is, dare I say it, borderline perfect. It's got a few small problems here or there, but I'm not going to be cynical for the sake of it. I love this season. It's a thrill ride that I would say stands side to side with some of the best of the original series. Now that being said, I must apologize because this video is going to be a whole lot less funny than the previous two, simply just because there's not a lot for me to tear into here. Instead of a half-joking rant with heavy shitposting, I've decided that I legitimately want to dissect why this season works so damn well. And don't worry, things will be back to normal when I cover the dumpster fire of Season 4, but for now, there will be jokes, just far fewer than before. If that sounds good to you, then follow me as I dissect The Legend of Korra, Book 3, Change. Okay, so I find myself in the center of an internal conflict. You see, thus far in this video series, I have referred to Korra as cunt, and whenever I'm using the word cunt, I would instead use the word Korra. It was an entertaining little gag that the audience and I grew fond of. The issue is that the character in this season is, frankly, undeserving of that rename. So once again, we'll go back to normal for the next part, but for this video, let's instead talk about the character known as...
I gotta testify, come up in the spot looking extra fly. For the day I die, I'm a toughest guy.
Well, talk about a complete change of pace. Korra, for the first and only time ever, is an actually good character and a solid protagonist. It definitely seems that she's grown past her character pitfalls and has developed into a competent, adapting, and confident protagonist that flows perfectly with the narrative surrounding her. She's adapted into a far better version of herself. She's far more focused and avoids drama that takes away from the story's progression. She's matured, but she's thankfully not a milquetoast Mary Sue either. She still has flaws, she's still emotional and inexperienced, but it's not to an unreasonable level like before. She's far more balanced as a character now. Also, her character flaws and philosophy are utilized far better in this story. For instance, in Season 1, her rash, over-emotional, and stubborn nature was paired up against the patient and wise Tenzin, making Korra look unsympathetic and unlikable, as well as creating contrived drama that halted the progress of the narrative. Whereas here you place Korra against someone like the Earth Queen, who perfectly complements her character flaws and leads to a natural conflict that furthers the plot. Now, one could say that this growth in her character justifies her flaws from the previous seasons. I mean, after all, you can't have a character grow if they have nothing to grow past. However, I would respond that this sentiment is bullshit. Yes, it is true that you need a character to start off worse than where they end up in order to properly develop them. However, you should not be waiting 3 seasons to do this to your main character, the person that we're supposed to follow and root for throughout the course of the entire series. If Korra was a side character, this would be acceptable, but you have the entire show resting on the shoulders of an awful, insufferable bitch for 2 seasons. Imagine if they had Iron Man from the beginning of his first movie stay exactly how he is and not develop until his 3rd film. Now, the lack of development could work for a character study show like Bojack Horseman or Neon Genesis Evangelion, but not for an action show with a simple narrative. So no, Season 3 Korra does not make up for Season 1 and 2 cunt. That being said, I am more than willing to enjoy her brief life as a good character while it lasts. Now, all of those compliments of Season 3 Korra aside, I don't believe Korra's full potential as a character has yet been realized. If you want to see a character like Korra done perfectly, look no further than Yusuke Urameshi from the criminally underrated anime Yu Hakusho. The development, the use of his character in the narrative, and the balance of likable and unlikable traits are all perfect. Still though, while not perfect, Season 3 Korra is still a monumental improvement from the desk-chucking, boy-cucking, emo-fucking, blood-sucking cunt.
Gotta testify, come up in the spot looking extra fly.
Tenzin once again steals the show by having a well-defined and perfectly integrated character arc that nicely builds upon the last one from the previous season. His character still has a great balance of qualities and flaws, and more than that, he gets put through the fucking ringer in this season. Unfortunately, the season's biggest flaw is involved with Tenzin, however, I'll be digging into that one a little later in the video.
For the day I die, I'ma touch the sky.
Fuck. Now, if you recall, I actually really liked Mako in the last season. The shift from moody badass to unlucky and well-meaning doormat was very welcome in my eyes, and Season 3 has another small shift that keeps him at about the same quality as Season 2, more due to the environment around him changing. In simpler terms, in this season, the entire world isn't shitting on Mako for no reason. He's still got some bad luck in this season, but it's far more downplayed. Instead, Mako shifted naturally into the cool-headed and reasonable one of the group. He's decently likable and everything he offers is solid. Basically, he's the same as the last season, except people around him actually start listening to him, and his likability more comes from his own traits, rather than siding against the PMS tidal wave from every character last season.
The doors is closed, I felt like Bad Boy Street Team, I couldn't work the locks.
Bolin is the worst character this season. No, he's not as bad as the last season, but he still fails as a comic relief character. In Season 1, he was a bland Sokka copy, and in Season 2, he was an actually retarded asshole. Whereas in this season, his biggest flaw is his inappropriate use of comic relief. To compare, I'll be using the example of Sokka, because he's a nearly perfect example of the trope. First of all, if you're gonna be the funny guy, then you have to earn it by A, being useful and earning your place in the team beyond making people laugh, B, only doing the comic relief when appropriate, and C, by actually being funny. For the first criteria, Sokka is the planner and the strategist of the team, and he only gets more useful both as the brains and as a fighter as the series goes on. Sokka's use of jokes is very reasonable. He'll throw in some jabs during a fight scene, but you don't see him cracking one-liners after the Eclipse invasion failed. Now let's put Bolin through the same trial. While Bolin is a decent fighter, he doesn't really offer anything to the team beyond that, and he also loses as many fights as he wins. His use of comedic relief is often disruptive, unnecessary, and inappropriate. For instance, the Red Lotus has planned an ultimatum that endangers either the lives of innocent airbenders or Korras. Everyone is trying to think of a plan, and then Bolin busts in and vomits verbal Down syndrome all over the war room.
That could work.
And give them the high ground? No, if their lava bender spots us, he'll melt the mountainside and us with it.
Wait, I got it. I'll disguise myself as a lost hiker, and once I'm in the temple, I'll distract the Red Lotus with my bird calls. Caw-caw! Caw-caw!
Shut the fuck up, faggot!
Now let's go. Take them back to the plan. Me and my mama hopped in that U-Haul van.
I could go either way with Asami. She's useful in this season pragmatically, she holds her own and isn't annoying or obnoxious. She's completely harmless in this season, but also nothing special. Nobody paying attention is gonna say, oh, Asami is the best character this season, but she's also not worth complaining about.
Any pessimists, I ain't talk to them. Plus I ain't had no phone in my apartment.
Boomy is a little bit more obnoxious in this season, but at the same time it's more for the sake of some small character development, so I guess it's a fair trade. He's the catalyst for the season, but is not really too important in the season beyond episode 7.
A hip-hop legend, I think I died in an accident, cause this must be heaven.
Lin just kinda comes in halfway through the season and immediately jumps into character development when we meet her sister again. I appreciate her incorporation into the story, but I can't particularly say that I enjoy watching her or following her character. She's a useful and necessary piece of the puzzle, but I can't say that I enjoy her outside of the puzzle itself. Or the porn.
Now let's take 'em high.
Speaking of a mother I'd like to sodomize, Sue is a welcome addition to the cast. Her narrative role as a figurehead of the Metal Clan is pragmatically useful, but her character in and of itself fits in very nicely as well. I like how naturally she switches from a narrative supportive role to a more strict leader. I mean, it's not revolutionary or anything, but once again, another piece of the puzzle fitting right into place.
Yes, guess who's on third? Lupe still like Lupin the Third.
Sandrat Aang is another addition to the cast, and he's alright. He's a little pickpocket kid that the team adopts early on in the season. Once again, he fits very nicely into the season, but he's not going to be anyone's favorite character. Also, he becomes a love interest with Jinora, much to the envy of the 30-year-old men lusting after a prepubescent anime pussy everywhere.
But before you say another word, I'm back on the block like I'm laying on the street.
The villains this season are absolutely phenomenal and practically carry the whole thing. The primary case being the all-powerful cult of anarchy, the Red Lotus.
I'm trying to stop lying like I'm Umbra, but I'm not lying when I'm laying on the beat.
The Red Lotus is a group that broke off from the White Lotus after a schism that occurred after the Fire Lord's defeat. While the name sounds like more Dark Avatar fanfiction bullshit, I can promise that it's way better than it sounds. They're a group of 4 anarchists dead set on crushing the major world powers. You got a lava bender, a handy-capable water bender, and a sparky boom bitch. All 3 of which are entertaining to watch and lead to phenomenal action pieces. However, the one I want to focus on is their leader, Zahir. What makes Zahir such an interesting character is that he's not insane or power-hungry or out for revenge. He is instead motivated by philosophy. I mean, he's wrong, but he's still driven by what he sees as moral concepts. And what makes it even better is that unlike someone like Thanos, who's driven by philosophy but is insane, Zahir for the most part remains reasonable. But for right now, I'll just say that the Red Lotus are genuinely intimidating, interesting, and entertaining villains who elevate the season through their incorporation into the narrative and through their overwhelming presence as the series goes on. And hey, I'll take that over Queer Vera.
A touche, Lupe, cool as the unthaw, but I still feel possessed as a gun charge.
Hey, you. Think of a character you're supposed to hate. Earth Queen is that character. She has no redeeming qualities and is only there as a tool to drive the story along and lead up to a satisfyingly brutal sequence, but I digress. Instead, let's take some time to talk about the production.
I represent the first, now let me end my verse right where the horns are like,
Visually, this season is really pretty great. There's no more Studio Period fucking us with smart, cost-effective shortcuts. Now we're back to Studio Mer full-time, orgasming its beautiful overabundance of animation all over our collective faces. Animation is smooth as hell and looks great. As far as a visual style, I'd say it's less noticeably good than Season 2, however, it does its job just fine. The new locations, Metal Clan, and Red Lotus all look good, and sometimes really good. As far as the audio department goes, the soundtrack is just as phenomenal as it's always been. However, the voice acting is a bit slacking at points. Particularly Zahir's voice early on sounds really bad, but it does get better as the series goes along, and most of the bad line readings were in the first few episodes, and I really didn't notice any problems towards the second half. Foley work is there, and it exists. So next will be the part where I cut to the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia theme song and shitpost for the majority of the video, while occasionally interspersing it with criticisms, compliments, and rants regarding the episode I'm covering, but not this time. That segment is really reliant on nitpicking and pointing out and exaggerating issues and details I notice while watching. However, we're not dealing with your mama's Legend of Cunt. This is the Legend of Korra Book 3, and there's a legitimately good, solid story to dissect. So for a change of pace, just for this part, I'm going to forego my usual episode-to-episode shitpost style, and instead go through each beat of the story and focus on why it works so well. I'll throw in some jokes as appropriate, but it'll be far from my focus this time. So join me as I dissect this middle child and find out why it hasn't inherited the genetic disorders of its older and younger siblings. The season begins with Boomy chasing his pet spirit. We get some pretty awful dialogue to begin things off with.
If you don't want to wear the sweater I made you, that's fine. I'm sorry I got mad.
But this scene sets a good catalyst for the season by showing Bumi airbending. This revelation kickstarts every plotline of the season. After this scene, we cut to Korra in a vine-ridden Republic City. This is an extension of the fallout of last season's Vaatu attack. The first episode follows Korra trying to clear them out for an increasingly worried and frustrated city. Back at Tenzin's place, Bumi tries to convince everyone that he can airbend, but nobody believes him. That is until annoying shit throws a plate at him and Bumi airbends it, and wait a minute, that is not how airbending fucking works! After that though, we move on to progress the story further by following Mako with his police work. He gets a report about an airbender emerging out and goes to investigate it. Then the airbender there gets freaked out and runs away. This scene does three things very nicely. First, it introduces Mako for the season. Secondly, it introduces the audience to the idea that it's not just Bumi and his relation to Aang that caused his airbending, but the fact that new airbenders are popping up everywhere. And lastly, it sets up the conclusion of the episode. Now, on the note of the new airbenders plotline, I personally really like it. World building has always been my favorite part of this series, so the inclusion of new airbenders and how they handle it really works for me. The next scene is another particular favorite of mine because it teases the shitty love triangle just to bury it and keep it 6 feet under for the whole season. Everything in this episode then comes to a head at the Republic City Bridge, where the airbender from earlier is being chased by police and is freaking out. Korra then flies up next to him, sits down, and talks and comforts him. It's here that we really see how much of a matured Korra we have this season. Korra saves him and brings him down just to get banned from Republic City for failing to get rid of the vines. A well-welcome change in my opinion, because Republic City is a really boring set piece and it opens up the season for much more interesting locations. Korra introduces the new airbender to Tenzin, who takes him in, and the team become dedicated to the new goal of the season, bringing back the Air Nation. This goal is the primary driving force for the season, and it stays important to the very last scene in episode 14. Episode 1 ends with introducing the main antagonist for the season in Zahir. Zahir is a terrorist in a prison cell who gained the ability to airbend and uses it to escape. This is nice because it takes the primary catalyst of the season, new airbenders, and it uses it to naturally lead into the primary conflict. It's in things like this that we can really see how streamlined and straight to the point this season is. We're not wasting time on dumb bullshit or forced melodrama. We open up episode 2 with Zahir breaking out his colleague, Ghazan. Ghazan is a lava bender, and that's pretty fucking cool. Some may say that this is fanfiction shit, but here's the thing. If metal can be bent through earth, why can't lava? Also, it makes sense how he can turn Earth into lava because all he would need to do is exciting the Earth's atoms to make them heat up into a melting temperature. It's not like he's changing Earth to fire. Lava is just really hot rock like ice is really cold water. Don't be stupid, it's cool and it makes sense. Also, the wood prison is a nice touch. Back on Team Avatar's side, Tenzin, Korra, Bumi, Bolin, Asami, Jinora, Mako, and that other guy all hop onto Asami's Zeppelin and head out in search of new airbenders. Now, it's also worth mentioning that Tenzin is the one leading the search. He's the one with the most at stake, and he feels a life purpose and responsibility towards doing it. This leads to a particularly interesting conflict when they find their first airbender. Everything goes well until they realize that these people aren't just going to drop everything and leave their families in order to start a nation they don't care about. Tenzin gets heated and they get kicked out. We get a montage of them trying and failing to convince airbender after airbender to join. Everything fails, and the more they try to force it, the more it backfires. Then Tenzin gets his failure complex going. Bolin then comes up with his only good idea in the entire series.
We could put on some sort of airbending street performance.
They do their little presentation and get approached by a street rat thief named Kai. He lies to them and feeds them a bullshit story so that he can use them to get away from law enforcement. He gets caught, but they decide to take him in anyway. The episode ends and they've gotten one airbender, even if it's not someone they were necessarily hoping for. As that A-plot for the episode wraps up, we cut to a prison in the middle of a volcano. There we have an armless waterbender held. Zahir and Ghazan break her out by giving her water, which she uses to make arms, and I don't care, this is fucking cool. It's different, it's unexpected, and it makes sense to a certain extent. With this prison break taking place in the Fire Nation, the Fire Lord is of course alerted, meaning we get a non-forced, natural Zuko cameo. And what's more is that he's actually in this season to do things, and I'll take it. Episode 3 begins with Team Avatar heading to Ba Sing Se. I've mentioned it before, but the globetrotting and changes in location are an incredible breath of fresh air after the last 2 seasons, and it kinda harkens back to the original series in a good way. At Ba Sing Se, we're introduced to the Earth Queen, who is a delightfully unlikable character. She exists to further the plot and be hated, and she does both phenomenally. Korra asks for information on the airbenders they receive reports about. The Earth Queen says that she'll tell them only if they do something for her. You see, apparently they need to escort tax money and protect it from revolutionaries who refuse to pay them. This scene is a good introduction to a few of the themes of the season, mainly the conflict of 2 extremes, authoritarian tyranny and anarchy. While all that's going on, Kai starts pickpocketing rich citizens and gets caught by Mako and Bolin. They have a chase which ends in Kai sending Mako and Bolin to the poorest section of the city. There we meet their father's family, and we get a few heartwarming scenes as a result of that. On the other end of things, Zuko meets up with Eska and Desna to warn them about the impending prison break of the last of Zahir's cohorts, Sparky Sparky Boom Bitch. Now, like I mentioned earlier, Korra's character can really shine in the right setting, so after the biker gang fight, she confronts the Earth Queen, and we really find ourselves rooting for her. Meanwhile, Kai gets caught airbending by the Dai Li and gets kidnapped, thus making every single action by every character in this episode furthering the storyline in a natural and organic way. Basically, for the first time after 2 seasons, everything is functioning like an actual story. Now, the Earth Queen is having the Dai Li kidnap airbenders and forcing them into her army, which of course parallels the last episode where our heroes wanted to force airbenders into the Air Nation. Basically, what the series is trying to say is that consent matters, goddammit you! Give me back my ass hymen, you sick freak! Sorry. Episode 4 follows Sparky Sparky Boom Bitch's prison break. She's kept too cold to explosion bend, but then Zahir breaks her out and hands Zuko a fat L.
Really?
Back to Mako and Bolin. Their detour is used to further the plot as they find out from their family about the Dai Li's plot. So they manage to return in time to reveal the Queen's lie to Korra right before the Queen lies to her face.
Those people should not be forced to join an army.
Well, technically, the Earth Queen has a right to conscript her citizens.
True, but I've said it once and I'll say it again. In a nice and natural callback, the team checks Lake Logai to see if the airbenders are kept there. When they aren't, Jinora uses her spirit power from the last season to find Kai.
I can't believe Miss Queenie Smugface had them right under our noses the whole time.
God, the story for this season is so good, but there are times like this where the writing is so goddamn painful. They break out the airbenders, and we get some really great action sequences, including this really nice close-quarters hallway fight. After they free them, the team are labeled wanted criminals by the Earth Kingdom. A nice little end to this section happens when, instead of telling them they have a responsibility or trying to coerce the airbenders into joining them, Tenzin simply asks them, and every single one of them says yes, they'll join. Meanwhile, back at Republic City, Zahir comes to Tenzin's family claiming to be a new airbender looking for training. Episode 5 introduces us to the Metal Clan, which is pretty cool. Also, Lin is there now. She didn't want to go to the Metal Temple because, as we find out, it is being run by her sister Sue, who she hates. We get some drama that gets explored in the next episode, but who gives a shit because the real star of the episode is, oh my god, they brought Ferris back! Yeah! Back at Air Temple Island, Zahir trains with some of the other airbenders, but gets caught by Tenzin's sister, which leads us into a motivated and entertaining fight scene between the 2 characters. Episode 6 is mainly devoted to exploring the relationship between Lin and Sue. I'd complain about it stopping things in its tracks, but it's honestly just nice to finally see some natural character development in a series as historically broken as this. Also, the drama itself isn't bad. We get an interesting flashback where we see Sue as a delinquent and Lin as a straight child. We get to see Toph as their mother, and it makes sense how it all plays out. It pits Sue and Lin against each other very nicely, and believe it or not, there's even a bit of symbolism, with Sue literally severing the line between her and Lin. This drama and baggage comes to a head as Sue and Lin duke it out until they're friends again. Also, while all of this is happening, Korra learns metal bending, and Bolin tries but he can't because he sucks. Back at Republic City, Zahir and his crew are trying to make a run for it, and of course they make the girl with no arms drive! Episode 7 follows Tenzin exclusively as he trains his new airbenders at the Southern Air Temple. We follow Tenzin's conflict as he struggles to be a leader that they want to follow. He and Bumi get into it, and Tenzin tries to toughen up until it becomes an airbending boot camp.
Alright, who's next?
I'm not sure I want to shave my head.
That's fine. Shaving your head is a personal choice.
Wait, what?
That's pretty funny. So Kai and Jinora try to save some air bison babies from poachers, but end up getting kidnapped themselves on their way to the Earth Queen. Tenzin, Bumi, and the Airbenders all work together as a unit to rescue them, and there's even this nice scene in the fight where the same guy before uses his newfound baldness to his advantage in the fight. Episode 8 has Zahir attacking the Metal Clan and kidnapping Korra, thus kicking in the tension and stakes for the season. In a very entertaining action sequence, they're just barely able to rescue Korra from Zahir as he and his peeps go back into hiding. Sue uses her human lie detector Ai-Wei to try to find the traitor who helped them get in. But plot twist, it was the lie detector guy the whole time who did it! And credit goes to Varric for helping them figure it all out. Characters believe Mako cliché. Wait a minute, what the fuck?!
We're not hunting this group. There could be other secret agents in other parts of the world looking for you right now. I'm taking you back to Republic City where I can protect you.
If I wasn't safe here, then I'm not safe anywhere. I have to stop them.
Actually, for once, Korra has a point. So in episode 9, Team Avatar goes on a hunt to find Ai-Wei, and we get more great location changes to make me a happy boy. They split up, and Mako and Bolin think they're being chased by one of the Earth Queen's bounty guards. They manage to lose them and find Ai-Wei. Anyway, the team tries to check into the hotel Ai-Wei is staying at, but the manager won't let them in because they're teenagers. Then the bounty hunters from before come in and reveal themselves to be Nuktuk fans, which is a pretty funny reveal. As it turns out, the manager is also a Nuktuk fan, so she lets them in. They perform their stakeout, and after waiting a ridiculously long time, Korra loses her patience and busts into the room. That's when they find out that Ai-Wei is not meeting Zahir in person, but in the spirit world. You know what that means? Another location change! It also gives a great excuse to have Korra and Zahir confront each other, since neither one can bend, so instead they can just talk. Zahir tells Korra that they are part of the Red Lotus and reveals their origins and ethos. Apparently not Tarlek was also part of the Red Lotus, but got voted out because the Dark Avatar shit was gay. Korra and Zahir argue philosophy, and this part is a little disappointing to me because the main issue is that Korra is not a philosophical person. Zahir is intelligent, but there are real flaws to his radical anarchism that Korra does not have the mind to argue against. As someone who politically and philosophically aligns more towards the farther libertarian side, even I can point out the flaws in a system gone too far. Basically, government is needed to protect the rights of its citizens. Now, I'm all for limited government, and I do believe our system, even in America, to be authoritarian and sometimes dangerous, but rational freedom does not equal abolishment of every system of rules. Also, Zahir's motivation is skewed too because he's not vouching for something like anarcho-capitalism or something like that. Instead, he's looking for balance by striking down all forms of power. Another flavor of equality, or equalism. And if there's one lie that gets perpetrated more than any other, it's that equality is a good thing. It's not. Freedom brings inequality, and freedom is a virtue that furthers mankind, unlike equality. I could talk about the philosophy and politics of this for hours, but I don't think that Korra or my audience will follow, so instead here's a fart noise at full volume instead! Also, while Zahir and I were talking, he was buying time so that Lava Man and Handy-Capable Girl can kidnap Korra. Asami bolts with Korra, while Mako and Bolin hold them off in another motivated and entertaining fight scene. Mako and Bolin get captured by them, and Korra and Asami get captured by the Earth Queen. In episode 10, Asami exploits the fact that her company sells shit products to escape. Then her and Korra accidentally crash their airship into the sand and shipwreck them and the crew. Meanwhile, in Ba Sing Se, the Red Lotus meet the Earth Queen and offer the location of the Airbenders in return for Korra. She agrees, but they find out that Korra escapes, so they change their plans, leading us to one of the best scenes in the entire season. You remember the off-screen murder-suicide from Season 1? Well, here's an elongated on-screen sequence of Zahir suffocating the Earth Queen with airbending until she's left a breathless corpse.
Oh, that's brutal.
Meanwhile, in the Earth Queen's prison, Mako tries to get Bolin to metal bend the bars to help them escape, but he can't because he sucks ass. Instead, Gazan breaks them out so that they can send a message to Korra. Back in the desert, Korra, Asami, and the airship crew sand glide into the closest city. There they coincidentally run into Korra's father, Lin, and Zuko. We find out from them that the Red Lotus are the reason why Korra was hidden before Season 1. In episode 11, Mako and Bolin grab their family to help them escape the looting and the riots from the anarchy in Ba Sing Se. They reconvene with Korra and tell her that Zahir's made an ultimatum. She needs to turn herself in or they murder everyone in the air temple where Tenzin is training. They call Tenzin to try to warn him, but it's too late, thus leading into the most high-tension action sequence in the entire series, as the Airbenders try to escape and Tenzin takes on the Red Lotus. This is the first time we've seen two Airbenders fight in the entire franchise, powers, and it's exhilarating. It all leads to the point where Tenzin takes on all of the Red Lotus at once, and we just get this slow shot panning away as Tenzin gets brutalized. Korra asks Uncle Iroh in the spirit world what she should do, and then asks Zuko, leading her to the decision that she needs to turn herself in. But not before that cringy Bolin moment that I showed earlier. In episode 12, Korra goes to turn herself in to Zahir, while the rest of the team goes to rescue the Airbenders. They find Tenzin with figures resembling the Airbenders behind him. Korra gets handcuffed, and then they find out that they don't really have the Airbenders, and Korra tries to escape. From there, we get a bunch of exciting, motivated fights, like Mako and Bolin versus Gazan and Water Arm Lady, Lin and Sue versus Sparky Sparky Boom Bitch, and Tonrock and Korra versus Zahir. We also get another brutally violent death, which you just have to see for yourself. Dude, I busted out such a sadistic, shocked laugh when I saw that. I guess you could say that it blew my mind. Unfortunately, by killing Zahir's honeyboo, he lets go of earthly things and can now fly. Meanwhile, Bolin can't metal bend because he sucks, but he can apparently lava bend, and they escape that way. The episode ends on a note of high tension as Korra gets kidnapped by Zahir. The season finale, episode 13, kicks off with Korra chained up in a mysterious cave reminiscent of the season 2 finale of The Last Airbender. Zahir reveals his ultimate plan of killing Korra while she's in the Avatar state, and to end the cycle of the Avatar because it might make them pay taxes or some shit. They plan on doing this by poisoning Korra, thus sending her into the Avatar state as a reflex and killing her then. We get some phenomenally uncomfortable body horror as they poison her, and she even gets to hallucinate Amon. Insert obnoxiously sexual joke here, I guess. Korra snaps into the Avatar state, but right as they try to kill her, she breaks out and attacks them all in a berserker Avatar state rage, and it's pretty freaking epic. From there, we get an earned Dragon Ball Z type fight as Korra and Zahir fly around and beat the shit out of each other. This fight is exhilarating, and it has very exciting camera work as they fly around. It really takes advantage of the fact that it's animated. At that point, the Airbenders have escaped and reinforcements have arrived. Bolin and Gazan lava bend at each other while Mako goes full ableist on the waterbender. Also, he finally remembers that he can fucking shoot lightning out of his fingers. And then Gazan just kinda kills himself, I guess. Korra and Zahir continue fighting, but then the poison starts to take effect and he chokes her with no safe word. Then Janora's like,
"There haven't been this many Airbenders in one place for a long time either. We have power together. Hurry! Everyone form a circle! Follow me!"
We get the original Last Airbender theme playing as all the Airbenders bend a huge tornado to throw off Zahir. Then Korra delivers the final blow.
Chaos is the natural order of all... Whoa!
You see what I did there? I put a sock in it. Literally.
You're not fucking funny. What is this, DeviantArt? Put your sock back on, you fucking weirdo! So Korra's dying, but then Sue unpoisons her because it's mercury poisoning or something. After that, Korra has officially received top-tier victim status as a disabled black female who may end up being a lesbian, who knows. The new Air Nation says that they'll do the Avatar's work until she's back on her feet. Then we get Janora's graduation to becoming an airbending master, which I haven't mentioned yet, but it's been very naturally and organically built up all season, just like every other plot point they throw at us. This story, packed tightly into these 13 episodes, is phenomenal, and everything came together near perfectly. We end the season with a final shot of Korra crying at Janora's ceremony, something I'll go into in a second, but first...
18 naked cowboys in the showers at Ram Ranch. Big herd throbbing cocks wanting to be sucked.
Honestly, I almost liked everything in this season. The story, the majority of the characters, and the drama all come together in a tightly packaged and exhilarating experience that is so high above everything else in the show that it's honestly really fucking sad. Almost everything here works, and there's only a few downsides that I need to talk about.
Cowboys in the showers at Ram Ranch on their knees wanting to suck cowboy cocks.
Okay, so first off, there are some issues with the dialogue. Some lines are really fucking stupid. Also, Bolin is the weakest character out of the bunch here. Some of the voice acting early on is pretty weak, but it's unnoticeable after the first 2 episodes. My biggest problem, though, is a lot more to unpack, and it may not seem like that big of a flaw at first, but let me explain. Basically, Tenzin should have died in this season. More specifically, he should have died right here. Reason number 1, it raises stakes, tension, and drama and is genuinely ballsy. This one I don't need to explain. I mean, Tenzin has been the most consistently likable protagonist for the entire series. This would have been the once-in-the-series chance to go all the way. There are several moments that could have been massively elevated by his death. For instance, take this.
You killed my father!
Imagine replacing Father, who, mind you, did not actually die, with Tenzin, who Zahir murdered. Next would be Korra going berserk in the Avatar state. It was powerful as is, but can you imagine that same scene with the weight of Tenzin's death behind it? Another scene would be the Air Nation's tornado. How much more of an impact would that have had if Zahir was defeated by the airbenders Tenzin trained, avenging his death? Finally, the end scene where Jinora becomes a master. How much more impact would this ceremony have had in the wake of Tenzin's death? This final shot of Korra crying would have been a final impact to the season if Tenzin's death was in her eyes as she watched. Reason number 2, it completes his character arc. Tenzin's goal throughout the entire season is to rebuild the Air Nation. He feels that he isn't good enough or wise enough or strong enough to do so. So imagine him dying protecting his airbenders, to then have them rebuild into a thriving nation led by his daughter, all because of his sacrifice. It's fucking beautiful, and it really would have worked. Reason number 3, Tenzin literally does nothing after this scene, like you would have lost nothing by keeping him dead. He does nothing in Season 4, and everything he does in the last episode of this season could have easily been rewritten to another character. Reason number 4, it would have made Season 4 infinitely better, but I'll get into that when I get there. Now, I understand that it's not a season-ruining thing, but I'm just saying that it was just such a wasted opportunity.
Cowboys even getting fucked in their sleep. Ram Ranch, it rocks!
Despite a few things here or there, Legend of Korra Book 3 is a borderline masterpiece. It does almost everything right. It's exciting, it's got a great story, great world building, good characters, it's dark, it's action-packed, and the drama really works. Honestly, The Legend of Korra Season 3 is sort of a miracle, and it's a high peak of quality that we've never really seen before or after this season. And Season 4 definitely goes back into the trash, which is the status quo. So, next time on The Legend of Korra, we'll be going back to form, back with the jokes, and we'll be tackling this season straight on, and finally tackling the gay agenda. What the fuck? Somebody threw a rock through a window. Jesus Christ, there's fucking glass everywhere. God damn it. Don't just stand there. Get out the way, dude. Oh my god, there's glass everywhere. Go. That's fucked up, dude. It's fucked up. Hey, Liam, so I have a bit of a situation and I need to crash at your place for a few days.
Stay out of my fucking house!
Okay, I'll be right there. I'm bringing some movies.